Okay, we're back. Well, technical difficulty. I don't know what's going on, but we rebooted everything and it seems to be working fine now. So we're back. I think we were doing introductions. We'll start over real quick though. Scott the Ryle is up on top. Scotter, say hello.
Hello. Glad to be back. I haven't seen y'all for a while. It does seem to be a bad day for Scope. I noticed even on the president's Scope earlier there was a little bit of ugliness, but hopefully we'll be all good after this. Doc Martin, long time no see.
I
What's
know
that good
I
looking?
have missed you, darling. It is not ever the same without your sweet face and your witty repertoire.
You say that to all the conservatives.
Rusty.
Well, no, only to the conservative men that I like.
Rusty, Iceman.
Howdy again. How you doing?
And Scott of West Texas in the lower right now.
Can't see myself on there, but hello everyone. Welcome to Speakeasy. We're glad you're here. It's been a big week.
And my co-host, the sultry southern tones of Doc Martin. Welcome back, Doc Martin, for another, well, we got an hour and a half now, thanks to Periscope.
Thank you. That is Doc D nice to you, Yankee.
Thanks to Pedoscope, we were freezing, but now we're fine. So, thank you, Pedoscope. Okay, let's get right into it. Our show tonight was about Ukraine, so we're going to start rolling the video because we lost a half an hour there, thanks to Pedoscope. So, let's go with the video. And we'll play a little bit, we'll stop it, and we'll discuss. Cuss and discuss, as Doc Martin says. So, let's roll.
So here's where the rubber meets the road. 2014, in February, the protesters seize Kyiv as the president flees. The president of Ukraine is taken out by the people of Ukraine. This is the first critical date. It gives people the opportunity to save the day. Now, if you remember all of the Halliburton stuff that we heard under Bush, when a country is destabilized and goes to hell in a handbasket, it is a chance for people to do all kinds of things, especially if they partner with the new people. So we made partner of the new president. Now, Halliburton, remember that? Left cared about that. Halliburton. The media was all over George W. Bush. Corruption. Why have you not heard anything about what I'm going to show you? So in February 2014...
We're going to stop it right there for a second and talk about that because I'm old enough to remember Dick Cheney, Halliburton, every night on the news. Do you remember that, folks?
Absolutely.
It was nonstop, 24/7 coverage. They wanted investigations into Halliburton and Dick Cheney's ties and the Bush's ties, right?
Absolutely.
The mantra forever.
That's right.
I can't help but feel they would have gone after him a little harder if he hadn't been part of the globalist elite.
That's right. So Bush is tied in with Obama, Clinton. We know that now. It's obvious. The way they hang out together, they talk together, and they all hate President Trump. Interesting.
And, Ellen loves Bush.
Oh, are we a family show still, or?
Hey, it's all G-grade words.
Hey, I think the baby should be in bed by now.
Well, let's roll the tape again.
This becomes the new president. Total upheaval. They have no money. They're completely broke. And here comes the United States of America. In March of that year, President Obama says, we're from the United States government, and we're here to help. So he decides, you know who you need? You know who you can need, because you're very corrupt. This is a very corrupt place, and it is. And we're going to help you, and we got lots of money. We can print it, whatever we want. So we got lots of money, but we've done this before, and we did it with TARP, and we spent all kinds of money, but we wanted to make sure that all of that reinvestment in America was clean, no corruption, and so we put Joe Biden in charge. So Joe is going to be the new point man in Ukraine.
Okay, so I stopped it again. Now that's where it starts, right?
As far as we know.
Ukraine's corrupt. Obama comes swooping in with our money and says, we want to help you, right? Now, you may not like Glenn, little disclaimer, you may not like Glenn Beck. For a while there, a lot of people didn't like Glenn Beck, but when he's doing this stuff is when he's at his best. And a lot of this information, not a lot of it, but some of this information I didn't know and I didn't see on the internet. So I think he does an excellent job when it comes to this and breaking it down for us normies, right?
I thought it was Colonel Sanders at first.
He's selling some chicken.
That words that give me chills from toe to top of head is, we're from the government and we're here to help.
Yes, we're from the government.
Exactly.
We're here. If you're a foreign country, you should run.
Yeah.
So let's go on and keep rolling this.
Okay, so then Joe, in March of that year, a month later, he has a quick little meeting because his son just started a new business. I love this. He started a new business and he was going to be an investment banker, right? Investment guy. And they were going to do all this investment funds and it was going to be fantastic. He has no experience in that. He partners with John Kerry's son and this guy, Devon Archer. This guy is John Kerry's, is his financial guy. I spent 30 minutes at a chalkboard just talking about this scandal. You can find it at YouTube. You can find it at blazetv.com. It is Joe Biden's scandal in Ukraine, okay? So he meets with Devon Archer. I'm going to give you this real quick. He meets with Devon Archer. Nothing to do with Ukraine. And then in April...
It smells really good, yeah. Really
good.
Sexy. Oh, that smells really good.
I would use it, but like, if a guy smelled like that.
Sorry, YouTube and their ads.
He flies to Ukraine. And guess what? So does he. And in May of that year,
I'm sorry, I got to stop it there because I got a question for the liberals that might be out in the audience. And let me see if they're out there, like Dragon Cats. Doesn't the Democrat Party hate bankers? I thought they hated bankers, investment bankers. Why are all their kids in investment banking?
Can I add to that point, Phil?
Sure.
I thought we were against fossil fuels or fuels of any kind. Why are they all in bed with fuel companies, energy companies?
Good point.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Exactly.
We only have 12 years to live, or a few months according to some liberals, but all of them are involved in fossil fuel companies. You're right.
It's a more as do what we say, don't do as we do.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that, though, Russ.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's all bullshit. I'm sorry, family friendly.
Well, no, it's okay, but I think it's more than that. What do you think, Doc? I think it's more in line with this new world government. That they're telling us to back off and stop drilling while they're investing in other countries to drill.
Yeah, they want all the control to be theirs through the global markets. They don't want it to be here centered through a duly elected president that doesn't play their games. They want that funded away. And they never want to be, even though they're in bed with big corporations, because you see the big corporations are all leaning left. They're not on the right. they're in bed with them. They're the people that are on the board of directors of all these companies. These are the very same people that are in bed with, all of the different governments like the Ukraine's.
That's right.
They
Gary's
don't want.
son,
They don't want
son,
competition.
do what, Boo?
They don't want competition.
They want all the power. They want all the money. They want all the control. They want us little people to live by different standards while they're out there with their family, because their family is not being watched, which we need to fix. But their families are being enriched and given hordes of money and power and wealth in all these other countries that, like Ukraine and China, that so that these governments actually control our very own government. That's what's happening. They're robbing us of a duly elected government by selling the power to these other companies, enriching their families. Did you notice that the Clinton Foundation dried up the minute that POTUS got elected? Don't see that anymore. Well, their gravy train, they had to find another way to get their gravy train on, because there went all their money that they were enriching their family with. It's the same thing over and over again, just different situations.
Well, it's a two-pronged attack, because they enrich all of these companies and their families and their organizations like the Clinton Foundation, and at the same time, the United States is diminished and weakened, right?
I'm having an epiphany about this just right now. They have set up the United States to be the repository for all this money that they can get, setting us up into a position where we aren't competition, but rather this is the base by which people can go out, reach out, make all the deals, get all these countries who are beholden to us to get in line and pay the money, and the people who are here, who are arranging all this, are basically using the United States as the repository for these riches that they're getting, their home base, as it were.
Yeah, and as somebody mentioned in the chat during the Matt y'all's program before, if y'all recall, and this goes way back, it's all tied. I think it was Dick Cheney reported that there was $3 trillion missing from the Treasury. A few days later, 9/11 happened, the 9/11 stuff, and it's never been brought back up.
Also from the Pentagon.
Well, when you bring that up, Scotter, it goes back to the climate change agreement under Obama. We were paying for everything to all these other different countries too.
And that's why Trump dumped the Paris Accord.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna get rolling.
For Trump.
We're gonna get rolling back here again. Let's hear a little bit more. I'm sorry, Doc. What was that?
I was just saying we have a lot. It took me a long time to get through this video.
Yep. So we're gonna roll again. Roll tape.
He is made a board member of a gas company called Burisma. And guess who else is made on the board member? Hunter Biden. It is nice, it is cute, and nothing to see here, folks. Like I said, you can get more on that story. But this is pretty much the Biden story. It happens all here. You'll see it a little bit on the timeline, but it's very small. Here's where it gets good. Because this poor country is so corrupt.
Are we muted?
Barack Obama says, guys, we want to give you some money. We want to give you some money. But I got to tell you, we're going to have to watch over it. Now, let me show you how much money we're talking about. Riding in on the white horse to save the day with all kinds of U.S. aid to Ukraine, it included a $1 billion sovereign loan guarantee, $320 million in general assistance, $118 million in equipment training for their security forces, $20 million for new law enforcement reform, and a fleet of advisors in banking and politics and energy and media and human rights. So they do that in May. You give them all kinds of money. And then because they're so corrupt, we mandate to this corrupt country that they start a national anti-corruption bureau of Ukraine, because we can't trust the guys in the masks. A national anti-corruption bureau of Ukraine. It's
Guys, real quick, if you want me to pause it, just let me know and I'll pause it if you want to talk, okay?
Got it.
Are we muted?
No, you're not.
fantastic. And you know who their partner is? Us, of course. We're not corrupt at all. So the guy who was tapped to be the first director of the Bureau is this guy, Artem, how do you say his name? Sitnik. Okay? He's the first director. And what's great is because he is now in charge of anti-corruption, he now has a direct line to the administration to talk about anything the Ukrainians might dig up, okay?
Can we do hold right quick?
Get here.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah, that was this whole thing about this anti-corruption group and the head of it. I had no idea about any of that. That was totally new to me from this stuff. Makes certain pieces fit now.
Exactly.
Well, also the partner, the third guy, what's his name with Hunter and Carrie's son?
Devin Archer.
Archer, that is a college friend of theirs from Yale that they were going to go in business together, who have no experience whatsoever in that field.
I think what's interesting is this anti-corruption leader
promoted to this board for the Ukraine gas company, Verizon.
This anti-corruption leader has a direct line to Barack Obama.
Yeah.
So, anything else, guys?
Something tells me anti-corruption has nothing to do with anti.
Well, they help form. They help form the anti-corruption task force in the Ukraine. That's how they got the direct line to Obama.
Right.
And the head of that anti-corruption force is going to play a pivotal role coming up. You're going to see.
Exactly. Now remember what Doc just said. Remember what Glenn just told you. He has a direct line to Barack Obama. Roll tape.
We get now to this place where we are dumping all of that aid in, but we're watching over it because we're responsible. And we were becoming a giant piggy bank. But we made some mistakes early on. Well, first, do you remember Burisma? Burisma was run by this guy. This guy is so corrupt that he couldn't come to the United States. He was never to be granted a visa to come to the United States because he's an oligarch. He not only runs Burisma, but he also has a bank. Whoa. So this guy gets the money for Burisma, $1.8 billion. It's put into his bank. I mean, who wouldn't put $1.8 billion in an oligarch, corrupt guy who can't come into the United States? He's so corrupt. Who wouldn't put it in that, right?
Where's the media on that?
That was what your co-host was referring to on MAGA Promises Kept. I mean, who would have any problem giving that much money to a crook, to an oligarch? It's so transparently rigged because they thought Hillary was going to win.
Exactly.
By the way, hi Beth, hi Granny, Grandma Smith.
Oh yes, welcome all the people in the chat. I hope you're getting some good information, good intel out of this. All of this has been verified by Glenn Beck. He never puts anything out that's not true. So we'll roll tape. We'll keep going.
tape that it is all backed up with
documents,
investigations, and documents.
Yep. All right, let's roll tape.
Oopsie. It's like Monopoly. Bank made a banking error. Lost $1.8 billion. Where did it go?
Oops.
Well, he certainly didn't have anything to do with it because somehow or another, he at the same time is given a visa to come to the United States. He's not a bad guy anymore. Woo! Wow. Take a moment just to look at that for a second. Okay. Now, June of 2015, coming down the escalator at Trump Tower is Donald Trump. And he's like, make America great again. Got it? This is a big day, June 15th. By late 2015, we are the Ukrainian piggy bank. We are giving them all kinds of money, but we're also helping them with advisors. Oh, yes, we are. We are helping them with Greg Craig, the former Obama White House counsel.
Can we stop it a second?
We have Tad Devine, chief strategist
Hold
for
on one
Bernie
second.
Sanders, and Tony Podesta.
Boom, right there. Look at those three guys.
Yeah, and I noted what he said. We were giving them all kinds of money, but in turn we were taxing them. So the individuals who are playing this, what essentially is a huge RICO scam, are getting kickback from all the money that we are giving them.
I think it's called money laundering.
Yeah.
Putting up Tony Podesta's name always comes up in all this crap.
Yeah.
Remember who he's tied to? The Clintons, and the one that you brought up, Iceman, last time. What was his name? The best friend to the Biden and
Archer.
Devon. He
Archer.
Yeah, with the picture.
Yeah,
Devon Archer.
he ran somebody's campaign. Whose was it?
Oh, that was
Was it
Kerry.
Kerry? It was Kerry's
That
campaign.
was Kerry's campaign, I believe.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how they're all interwoven? They're all intertwined. They all scratch each other's backs. And they always do all these big deals where there's money funneled around where they all get a big piece of it. Isn't that nice?
I don't
No,
recall.
think about quid pro quo.
Well, I don't recall it in this video. I've watched it a couple times, but doesn't Nancy Pelosi's son have a tie to Ukraine energy? Interesting.
Yes.
I believe he's being investigated as we speak for it, from what I understand.
Well, with all these billions gone, how much is actually went to the bank? How much may have went to the Obamas or whomever? I don't think all that money went to one person's bank.
Well, it's like Phil said, Rusty, the money is being laundered and finding its way back to the facilitators of these deals.
Clinton Foundation, and then the Clinton Foundation disperses it to their friends. You know, it's all a big money laundering scheme.
Yeah,
And uranium one is in too, don't forget.
Well, that's
You'll
Russia.
see later on when they start getting scared, Tony Podesta shut his agency up really quick. So you'll see. I mean, it's like a collective hive.
Okay, what's
Do you
your...
remember trust stuff because it happened overnight?
Yes. And remember, the enemy of the people, the mainstream media didn't tell you. Did you hear any of this on the mainstream media?
No.
Of course
Not a word.
not. Because it affects Biden, Pelosi, Obama, Hillary. Even Bernie Sanders isn't on the scam.
They're cohorts. Let's face it.
I'm waiting, and I can't wait to see where Schumer fits in.
And if I may throw in this little tidbit, Mitt Romney's advisor was on this board, and he is deep state. His name is Joseph Coler, black.
Yep, you're exactly right. And I believe he's about to cover that.
And that's why Mitt Romney has a vested interest in the president being impeached.
Yes. Mitt Romney's even tied to it. And who's been screaming loudest?
Well, I didn't see that part. I just, I was listening to Mark Lavelle, and they were talking about how Romney's impeach crap. And I just kind of thought, why is he screaming so loud? And then I just put two and two together.
Yep.
Jerry Joyfire has also mentioned Romney's son and then Whitey Bulger's nephew.
Yes.
Yes.
They're involved as well. They're all tied into it together. Republicans and Democrats.
We found the beehive. We found the beehive. That's what they're also wound up about. We found this hive where they all felt they were safe by basically keeping the poop out of the bird nest, far away from the bird's nest.
Well, they're the ones who threw the poop in the first place.
Yeah, but they're keeping it away from America. They thought they'd never be caught.
This gives these countries control over our government. Because it isn't just about the corruption. It isn't just about the ties. It's about the fact that they are handing control of our government. Because if you think they're in bed with Ukraine and all of these people, and they in China or Ukraine wants to influence our elected leaders, this is the perfect vehicle. So it not only robs us of the money, but it also is giving them undue influence over our country. We're not a free country. It was a facade, and POTUS saw, and that is, I think his main thing is to pull back the curtain and let us see that we weren't really living free.
Right. So let's keep rolling here. Roll tape.
Brother to John Podesta. We also have Mark Penn, the chief strategist for Hillary Clinton. John Alazone, Obama campaign pollster. Another guy, John, the Obama campaign lead pollster. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. When you need help, buddy, all you have to do is phone a friend, because all of these people are now working in Ukraine for you. You are our man. I cannot stress enough that the climate in Ukraine is all corrupt at this point. This is the climate that the Russia investigation begins in. Not the official investigation led by Robert Mueller. No. The unofficial investigation launched by none other than the DNC. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Back in the U.S. in late 2015, while all of this is going on, the Democratic Party decides they're going to hire Alexandra Chalupa. Taco Bell, I apologize. The only person that could make a chalupa into a bad thing is her. Alexandra Chalupa, she's the daughter of a Ukrainian immigrant.
Okay. You wanted me to pause it?
I'm sorry, I just said Fox in charge of Hen House. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, no, that's okay. I want to ask, does anybody recall Chalupa mentioned at all in the Mueller report?
Never.
Why? 2 years, $40 million. He should have caught that, right?
You'd think.
You would think.
But a guy with a chalkboard that looks like, sorry, Glenn Beck, Colonel Sanders caught it? He had how many 17 angry Democrats couldn't find Chalupa?
Well, the guy who wasn't looking for a job, who actually had a job, has actually had ties all the way back to sometime around this 9/11 incident. I think this has been going on a long time. and we've learned which way not to look.
That's right. So 2 years, $40 million, and he can't find a Democrat connection in Ukraine. Where the collusion all came from. Boy, I want a refund. That bastard owes me $40 million the way I see it.
Yeah.
Ain't that it?
All right, well...
The Ukraine bank owes us $1.8 billion.
That's
a
true.
refund.
Yeah, we want a refund. Good point, Rusty. Roll tape.
You know, it's
sorry.
no mystery why our taxes have gone up.
Yeah.
We're paying for all of this.
Makes you sick.
They were keeping the whole freaking world and their new world order afloat on the backs of middle America. They have broken our backs. The piggy bank is out of money, and we're pissed off too.
Now I'm going to get to say my favorite phrase, roll tape.
And she began right away after she was hired doing opposition research on Donald Trump. Now remember, late 2015, June, he's coming down the escalator. The Democrats go right to work in Ukraine to find out dirt. Wow, do they have a little machine built there? Or how are they digging up dirt? Why would they do this in Ukraine? Here are the documents I want to show you that shows that, yes, she did indeed work. This is from opensecrets.org, that she did work for the DNC, and they paid her $71,918. There you see it in the monitor.
Can we stop it real quick, Phil?
Yep, there's a commercial anyway.
There's another... Okay. There's another tie-in to this about the time that Donald Trump came down the escalator. We didn't know it then, but we know a bit about it now, that the dossier was not just written on Donald Trump. There were dossiers written on many of the potential Republican candidates, that they were prepared to break out as soon as somebody was named, that there would be dirt on whatever candidate was there, because they have a lot to protect in this scam they've got going on.
Yeah, Tibbs' name came up.
Well, and so did Texas. Cruz. Ted Cruz's name was up. Apparently, they had quite a bit of stuff open through the National Security Agency that they were going to open up a dossier on whomever it was. And when Trump came in, it became a little more serious because they're an outsider, but they figured they had that list too.
So it was Russian collusion by fill in the blank, right?
Exactly.
Supported Trump, Scotter, because they thought he had the least chance to win. They did not think a rich TV mogul would ever be able to start the storm that he has. And
so they did push him, you're right.
Supported him, and then when he started rocking their world with rallies and starting to take over and winning at all of the debates and stuff, they went, whoa, wait, we didn't realize we might have picked the wrong guy to back.
They also knew that he knew.
Yes. He knows all their secrets.
Yeah.
He's been among them for years while they were drugged.
He's watched finance for decades.
And all of that, and he was the sober, stable genius, just taking notes, to say it. Planning.
He is a master of timing.
That I didn't know, Scotter. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, that came out. Actually, Dan Mangino was the first one who brought my attention to it. But via the NSA, they had information to be able to use to put together many dossiers on different Republican candidates. And they actually, Doc is right, whoever deep state is decided that Trump was the least risk and they actually kind of helped him along at first. And then his speeches started bringing out the fact that he knew a little bit more about what was going on than the average Joe or the average politician even. And then they saw the danger signs.
I will, in fair disclosure, also Patriot Soapbox covered that in depth. I believe it was Radix and Good Dog and Feisty Cat that had done deep dives in that too. So that's how I became aware of it.
Just so you know, I was not really very involved in politics until after the election, because I'm one of the ones who voted against Hillary, and I was skeptical about Donald Trump. And it wasn't until after he was elected that I became, you know, I'd find these little bits and pieces of this really weird information about deep state and sort of a gutter leading of how all these things went down. And the more I dug, the more I found out. And that's why I became really interested. And I found out about Dan Bongino before I even knew anything about all these people who were doing this stuff on Periscope, you know, all the YouTube folks. I literally have only been on Twitter since May of last year.
How they were brought into the fold. So many people were either voting against Hillary or voting what they thought was the lesser of the evils, whatever. But I think so many people during that journey has been like you, had their eyes open to the truth. And I think that's why we've got to keep on reaching out to our liberal friends and family. I know that oftentimes I am bad about just not bringing it up around certain people, or not saying things around certain people, or thinking about where I'm going before I wear my Trump hat, or, you know, whatever. And that's what they're banking on. That's what they're hoping for. But guys, we've got to keep exposing them to the truth, because the mainstream media isn't bringing this story. But people like Glenn Beck and patriots like us and people that we'll mention at the end of the show, we are bringing it to your attention because we need the truth out there, guys.
All right, so let's get back on track here, guys. Back to the video, because we still got about 40 minutes left here. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Let's keep exposing the Democrat and deep state corruption here.
That's just for her work during the 2016 election. But her work with the DNC goes all the way back to 2004. Now, in January 2016, she starts to investigate. And Chalupa approaches an official at the DNC and says, regarding Donald Trump's campaign, I just feel that there's a Russia connection. Oh, you feel that? Wow. How the heck did you feel that? This is in January 2016. At that time, there was nothing out on Manafort, and Manafort wasn't even working for Donald Trump. There was no Steele dossier. George Papadopoulos wasn't on the campaign yet. There was no FISA request, even for Carter Page at this point. So she just, I don't know, maybe she had a Ouija board. Trump, R-U-S, I don't know. Could be Rush, could be Russia, I don't know. But I have this feeling. Wow. So she goes to work and she concentrates most of her corruption on, yes, who else? Paul Manafort. She wants to find out all about Paul Manafort. Now, Paul Manafort is somebody that I talked about during the election. I thought he was clearly dirty, okay? However, he was working with the now exited, the guy, remember the guy on the floor? He was trying to, can you grab that for me? He was trying to help this guy get elected. Remember, Obama had this guy. This guy had all of these people right at the other end of the phone. Manafort was trying to get this guy to go back to the election. Interesting enough, all of her energy was focused on Manafort and not the partners that were trying to get this guy elected. Who was trying to get him? No, him too, right? Who else was working on this? We have, oh yeah, here it is. Tad Devine and Tony Podesta. Now that's weird because they were working on the same thing. And they were in the same bed. And what's really crazy is she only wanted to focus on him. Nothing here. Now, the same month that Chalupa was telling the DNC that there was a Russia connection between Manafort and Trump, the Obama White House summoned some people. In fact, what they did is the White House, Obama gave a personal information to the prosecutors in Ukraine. Remember the National Anti-Corruption Bureau? Those guys, and like their attorney general, their regular police force, if you will, their national police force, was summoned to the White House. And Obama said, what we're going to do is we're going to build cooperation with Ukraine. Your Anti-Corruption Bureau, which is fantastic, headed by this guy, fantastic. Now, according to a political official at the Ukrainian embassy, the meeting immediately turned to two main issues: Biden and his son, and a case tied to Paul Manafort. You can probably guess which one they didn't investigate and which one they did.
So right there, I'm going to pause it for a second. Right there, Obama interceded and protected Hunter Biden. Right in the White House. Can we see the transcript of that meeting?
That was more than a phone call.
Yeah, we want to see the transcripts on that.
Oh, you know what? Can the president get those released? Or are they in supposedly his Obama's library?
That's how they've protected a lot of the documentation from the corrupt Obama administration. Is they have moved it under the guise of it being for Obama's library. But I believe that's going to be taken care of pretty soon.
But Q said they already have the data, so.
But he's the most transparent president in history, Obama was. Why is he hiding stuff?
And he didn't have any scandals.
Why is he hiding everything?
You said it's scandal-free.
So transparent, he has to hide everything. Put it in his library so nobody can see it for the next 15 years. Why? He's so transparent.
Yeah, yesterday Biden said that that's the thing most proud of is that they had a scandal-free presidency. I just had to laugh.
All right, let's get back to it.
Everything they say is reversed from what it really is. Everything.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. True that, Rusty.
So let's roll tape.
The deputy head of the Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office said that upon returning back home from the Obama administration meeting in Washington, there was, quote, a clear message about helping the Americans. Regarding the Manafort case, he said, and I quote, yeah, there was a lot of talking about needing help, and then the ledger just appeared in public. What ledger? What are you talking about? I'll get back to that in a second. So, he brings him to the White House. They're concentrating on Paul Manafort. And remember, the White House also, according to sources that were there for this meeting, they also said they were being pressured not to look in to this. But remember, whoopsie, we're not talking about Joe Biden. I don't care what he did. What happened to my and your $1.8 billion? Why did you put it into this bank run by this guy who was totally corrupt, and then who said, he's not so bad, let him into America? After he took or lost, where did I put that $1.8 billion? Must have left it in his other jacket. We don't want to talk about that? You know, it's funny because one of the things they're saying is that Donald Trump pressured them to look in. What these guys are doing is they're pressuring them not to look at this. But now you've heard the story. Biden, forced the removal of Ukraine's general prosecutor. His name was Viktor Shokin. Okay? Bad guy. Everybody says, bad guy. I don't know. He seems like a bad guy, and also some good things he was doing. But he was investigating a Ukrainian company that Biden's son was involved with. We all heard both sides of the story. Biden claimed what he did was purely based on Shokin's corrupt conduct and nothing to do with this. Except, you know, one thing that bothers me is this meeting. This meeting where you sent the people back home and they all said, you didn't want us to look into that. And then Mr. Joe Biden comes in and he gets this guy fired. This is something that's probably worth looking at. This is a document of the sworn statement of the guy Joe Biden got fired that was recently obtained by the investigative journalist John Solomon. John Solomon is an award-winning investigative journalist that for 30 years worked for the Associated Press, the Washington Post, and the New York Times. He was fine then. He's outed people on both sides of the aisle. But all of a sudden, he's a conspiracy kook. This statement was made in a separate court case involving another Ukrainian citizen. We'll get to that. But here's what Shokin states. He said when he was fired, there had been no complaints about his work, and that Biden never specifically accused him of any criminal offenses. He then goes to say on the record in a sworn court statement, and I want to quote the paragraph, the truth is that I was forced out because I was leading a wide-ranging corruption probe into Burisma Holdings, a natural gas firm active in Ukraine, and Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was a member of the board of directors. I assume Burisma, which was connected with gas extraction, had the support of the Vice President Joe Biden because his son was on the board of directors, end quote. Now, this is the relationship and power that the Obama administration had over Ukraine. Why? Because we were dumping money. And it was Joe Biden and Barack Obama that were the sugar daddies. Shokin, their equivalent of our Attorney General, said that Obama was, quote, telling the heads of the Ukrainian law enforcement system how to investigate and whom to investigate. And Shokin had another unforgivable sin on his record because he launched an investigation. This is just comedic at this point. He was investigating the Anti-Corruption Action Center, and it's spelled C-E-N-T-R-E, so you know it's credible. It's got the fancy foreign center. Shokin alleged that the NGO might have improperly diverted or even, dare I say it, embezzled millions of dollars. So wouldn't we really want to know? Because it's our money. Wouldn't this be an unforgivable sin to Obama and Biden? Yeah, gosh darn it. If it wasn't that the financiers, the two top financiers of that year are the International Renaissance Foundation and the U.S. government. Now, I've never heard of the International Renaissance Foundation before, so we had to do some investigating. Now, guess who the other main donor is of this group? You got it. George Soros.
Duh! You've got to be kidding me.
Georgie Porgy.
Favorite evil man.
You've got to be kidding.
It shows up everywhere there is trouble.
So, that meeting at the White House where Obama, the traitor Obama, was trying to prevent an investigation into the money laundering of U.S. taxpayer dollars. That's sad. Yeah, he was a president.
That's way sad.
And this Renaissance
I mean, wow. How come? Why is nobody in the media talking about that meeting where Obama was involved in shutting down the investigation?
But you know what? That's something Trump can probably release because that is White House information and watch in the transcripts.
I'm sorry.
Say at least the schedule.
That's going to be coming out on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
May I make an observation?
Please.
Phil, there are thousands of stories that the media ignores. You are surely not that naive. They're ignoring a lot of.
No, I'm just doing
state.
what Donald Trump does, is hammering it home that they are the enemy of the people, the enemy of the people.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm going to get to say my favorite thing again. I'm sorry, Doc. What was that?
I said, do you think that any of this would be covered at all if he hadn't been
Absolutely not.
No.
over the head with?
No.
Yeah, plus we got to remember that, when Trump elected, plus the Pew thing and everything, it's a worldwide thing. I mean, this president over in Ukraine, he was a comic. He's a stand-up comic. The people are so fed up with, their corruption. They did what we did. We went outside the politicians and found someone. When I heard this comic got elected, I laughed. I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen now? But it's been amazing. The guy has been amazing.
Let's get
Did
back
you guys
to
just
it.
get a pop-up? Did you get a pop-ups asking about are these guys living under a rock? I don't ever see those comments, but there's the moderator thing that asks if it's okay or seems okay or whatever.
I didn't.
What drives me nuts is there are a lot of people out there who think that we're the nuts and we're the ones that come up with the facts.
There's documents.
The media will. There's documentation. There's facts. There's tons. I mean, literally tons of evidence in the form of reams of data. There's video. There's all kinds of stuff. And for some reason, we've got a deep state who has managed to hide it all, and yet we have a press who's also managed to work with the Democrats. Excuse me. Regrets. All Democrats are horrible, but all the Democrats in office are, who have managed to successfully turn our country against one another by lying to the public and convincing them so much that they get on shows like these and say, these people are stupid, these are insane, they've come out from evidence.
Agreed.
I think it was huge.
Except for it's so bad, it's so serious.
I think it was huge too. A couple of days ago, I think it was Clapper, may have been Brennan, who threw Obama under the bus. That we're just doing what he told us to do.
Right on CNN.
Yeah, it was Clapper.
All right,
we were just doing what Obama told us to do.
That was huge because the second he said that, I was in the kitchen and I went, oh my gosh, he just threw Obama under the bus on national television. I mean, that right there shows we were doing what President Obama told us to. So
Friday morning, there's a very conservative guy on my local radio station. It's not a conservative station by any means, but he has a morning show. He's the one who said that there is evidence that, actually proof that Joe Biden also got paid millions of dollars from for being a same thing that Biden is, that Hunter was, a consultant for a gas company, even as he was the vice president. This kind of evidence flies in the face of what the media is putting out, and they're very quick to snuff it. And I'm so happy that it's coming out now, where we're fighting this stuff, and I think that more and more people are seeing that the truth is actually in the conspiracy theorist stuff.
Well, do you notice now the media talking point is, oh, the Biden stuff was debunked. It was, who debunked it? When was it debunked? When was it investigated? I don't see anything that debunks it. But they all get their talking point from the DNC, because the DNC started it.
defense right now. He said Biden is using the defense that all of this was already cleared, looked at and cleared by Obama's White House.
He threw Obama under the bus. Exactly.
Again, saying that all of this was looked at, because remember, it's been brought out that 4 different times it was thrown into their face so much that they had to look at it, the Obama administration, and 4 times they didn't stop him. Now, and so he's going, well, Obama looked at it and didn't tell me to stop. It was fine. Everybody looked at it, and it's above board. Everybody knew about it. It was fine. No problem.
We just saw the tape. Obama was involved in it. It's so Obama cleared what he was involved in.
Some of us read that as, yeah, I'm just throwing Obama under the bus because it's getting a little too hot for me here.
Yes, it's just
Plus, it just came out. It just came out about the. This is kind of like the second round. They have those prosecutors over in Ukraine, and our ambassador to Ukraine was not giving them visas.
Hold that. It's coming up.
It's coming up.
But also,
But
also look at Nancy Pelosi screaming for Barr to be removed, and they're just pointing fingers who they want to be impeached.
Well, you know why? Because her kid's involved in this.
Yep.
And he knows her kid is neck deep in all this, and he's next. So they're all. I mean, do you think panic is bad when it's for yourself? You just panicking for a child. Oh dear God, what I would not do to try to keep Haley out of prison. You know what I'm saying?
Let's roll tape
could
here.
Be in it too.
Let's roll tape. We got about 30 minutes left.
Spooky dude. You can't do it. Apparently in America or the world, you cannot do a chalkboard without this guy showing up.
Yeah.
In March 2016, things began to change. Here's what happened. Oh, by the way, in March...
We're getting into some of the stuff that Scott of West Texas was just, I believe, about to talk about. We got a barking dog there.
March 2016, he gets fired.
That's me, sorry.
Bank made another accounting error. We lost $2.2 million and $1.8 billion in an IMF loan that you and I guaranteed. Where did I put the other 1.8? In March 2016, the good guy takes over. Now, who is the good guy? Lutsenko. He takes this guy's place. And everybody in the Obama administration says, he's great. He's the best. This guy bad. This guy good. So he gets in. But wait, there's more. Also, the same month, what happens? But Paul Manafort, like honestly a gift from the gods for the Democrat, decides, you know what? I'm going to go into the Trump team. Bing, ding, ding. They've been setting him up. How did this happen? So he goes in the Trump team. Well, they're excited about this, of course. And Chalupa, remember, she's on the Democratic payroll. She starts working directly with the Ukrainian embassy in the U.S. She's working with the staff to raise alarm bells regarding Manafort to the Ukrainian president. She said the embassy, quote,
oh, sorry, commercial.
You don't know.
Worked directly with reporters researching Trump, Manafort, and Russia to point them, quoting, in the right directions. This is the Ukrainian embassy here in the United States working with a DNC operative. Does any of this sound like what they accused Donald Trump of doing? Working with a DNC operative to damage the Republican candidate for president to influence the election. Now, I said I wouldn't give you any opinions, but do I need to? Chalupa and the DNC deny this, but the Ukrainian embassy political officer who worked there at the time stated that the Ukrainians were indeed working with Chalupa. Here's the quote. They were coordinating an investigation with the Hillary team on Paul Manafort with Alexandra Chalupa. Now, remember, phone a friend anytime you need help. They're all there. Is this that big of a stretch? Especially when you find this, which was released on WikiLeaks, between Chalupa and the former DNC communications director, Luis Miranda. In this email, she just checks in and she reports, she says, a lot more coming down the pipe. She went to the Open World Society Forum. I want to read this to you exactly. She went to Library of Congress specifically to talk about Manafort. And she says, they put me on the program, I'm quoting, to speak specifically about Paul Manafort. And I invited Mike Isikoff, whom I've been working with for the past few weeks, and connected him with the Ukrainians. Now, gosh, that sounds familiar. Remember, they're accusing Rudy Giuliani of doing this with John Solomon. Except they don't have things like this. Huh. I invited Isikoff. I've been working with him the past few weeks, connected him to the Ukrainians. More offline tomorrow, since there is a big Trump component you and Lauren need to be aware of that will hit in the next few weeks. Something I'm working on you should be aware of. Now, what's weird is if
pause for a second.
Yep.
It seems like anything with Biden, they scratched off, put Trump in.
Yes.
That's all they did.
Yes, and Isikoff, remember him? He was a prime player in the Russia collusion hoax.
He was. Isn't that funny?
It was.
Move them all around.
They're all tied together. It's amazing.
Birds of a feather.
And he's putting it together so that, you know, I think as simple as you can, this is quite a spider web going on in Ukraine alone.
Well, and if you notice, all of the Democrat people that have been screaming the loudest have all got ties to Ukraine and China. It isn't just Ukraine. It's this deep, this many levels in China as well. That much money, if not more. And when those countries are spending that kind of money to influence us or getting that kind of money from us, do you think they're just going to walk away quietly into the night if those people all of a sudden don't do what they're asked to do? That's where we for our republic we've got to take in how serious a threat this is to our republic, because they are being mandated and told what to say and do by Chinese or by the Ukrainians, by corrupt, horrible people that are willing to sell us all out. That is so scary to me.
Well,
here's the thing. Here's the thing, from my point of view. This stuff has been going on for decades, but there are so many of us in the country who are not aware of it at all, and to bring it all out to the forefront all at one time is going to cause such a huge shock that we can't, as a nation, handle it. So we're bringing this in little pieces, because you heard Giuliani on one of the shows the other night, because he's been on a lot of them, said that wait till you find out about Romania. I mean, this is going on worldwide. This is every confrontation. All these people who used to be anti-war are now the warmongers. Why? Because they're getting paid from all of this instability.
Scott, I'm going to disagree with you on one point. People aren't going to be shocked. They're going to be freaking pissed off is what they're going to be. They're going to be pissed. They're going to want heads to roll when they find out all of this.
I agree, but there are a lot of normies out there, Phil, who aren't watching this, who weren't aware of it, who are now just becoming aware of it. And when if you were to bring it all out at one time, you know, in one day, all of the different things that we don't even know yet, then you would have the riots in the streets. you would have the problems that they're worried about.
I totally agree with you. I'll totally agree with you, Scott, because there is somebody I talked to, and we just started talking and all that, and he says we got into what's going on in the world, and goes, I never knew that at all. He says, I want to talk to you more. I want to know everything. And then there's another person who just don't want to hear
who doesn't know.
Even if you drip drab this out,
who isn't aware.
Even if you drip drab this out for 2 years, at the end, do you think there's not going to be people with pitchforks running around wanting to that didn't know any of this that are still going to go, what the hell? You know, you ruined America for 30, 40 years.
But I think we're seeing an attempt to mitigate it somewhat, so we don't have a total anarchy breakout.
Think how far he's brought us.
What?
Since he started coming down that escalator.
I think people like.
And if you hang on just one second, Phil, let me be sure to get this in because this really ties it all together. If you do read Q, he has said that number one, all of this, we all thought Trump was going to come into office and start putting everybody in jail. That would have caused riots the likes we have never seen. Because too many people would have seen it as political and not as justice because they had not been red pilled. You also
case in point. Look at what happened with Biden. Just Biden.
If the full amount of the corruption and the Satanism and the pedophilia and the human trafficking were to be known worldwide, that it would cause all of the governments the worldwide to fail.
Here's the problem with your theory, Doc, is this country here's
of the truth because people will not be able to handle it.
Here's the problem with your theory, and I'm not trying to debunk you, but we're a country of 340 million people. Only about 10 million people follow Q. So there's 330 million people out there that still,
It's 60 million now.
Even if it's 60 million, there's 340 million people in the country.
It's irrespective of Q.
May I counter for just a second?
Q, let me
just wait a minute. We're getting way off track here, and we're losing time on the video.
But let me finish this point since you boys started it. What I'm saying is that you are exactly right, Scotter, and you are as well. Eventually they will not be able to walk down the street for fear because just even the amount that's going to come out, but also they have been trying to bring us down. Everything Trump says, he says before because the mainstream media doesn't cover it, so nobody ever knows what he's saying is truth, and then once he says it, they have no choice but to cover it, and that's how he's bringing it up. And with Twitter, if he had not had the foresight to start tweeting on Twitter, none of this would have happened. None of it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil. Didn't mean to get on my soapbox.
No, that's okay.
And just real quick, because no matter whether you believe in Q or not, or regardless of how many people believe in Q, you have got a certain percentage of Americans out there who are not, they don't have the time to look into any of this. You got about 50% of this country still who are just moving along. They think they're conservative, they think they're Republican, they think they're Democrat. They don't know. They're just kind of drifting along. They don't know about all this skullduggery. We're very aware of it, but there are still a lot of people in this nation who are not. It's going to be very, very shocking when it comes out how much absolute evil has been going on worldwide, and starting with our nation. I mean, we're contributing.
I did want to add one point back to what Doc was saying. There was a story out, I think it happened a couple of days ago. I mean, I was talking this worldwide movement that's going on in the insurrection and civil war thing. I mean, just in Margarita, Mexico? The elected mayor there ran on fixing the streets, and he didn't. And they pulled him out of his office, hooked him up behind a Toyota truck, and drug him around the streets of Margarita so he could see how bad it was.
God.
I saw that. Amazing. Okay, we better get back. Sorry.
Wrote a story for Yahoo News and detailed some of the things in the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier, the leaked dossier, went to Isikoff. And then what's weird is it also kind of showed up with the FBI, and it was used as corroborating evidence to justify a FISA warrant for Carter Page, you know, so we could find out about Donald Trump. Because remember, this is released, and the Democrats at the same time they hire Fusion GPS to get to the bottom of Donald Trump. 1 month after the DNC hired Fusion GPS to work on the dossier. Oh, and by the way, Mrs. Orr was working here, and she's married to Bruce Orr, who's with the DOJ, and the little pillow talk. She accidentally said a few things that were coming out of Fusion GPS, which happened to come right out of the DNC with Chalupa. And so now he's coming around and going, wait a minute here. Where is the media on this? Where are they? Where were they? Where are they now? The DNC was colluding with the Ukrainian embassy to influence our election, but nobody cares. Do you see why the president might be a little testy? Maybe. The work the Ukrainians and the DNC and Chalupa were doing together actually prompted Senator Chuck Grassley to write a letter to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. But, as you might guess, no one was really interested. Nothing happened. Wow. Okay, so here we are. The Isikoff member. She's working with the Ukrainian embassy and the press. They've got Fusion GPS. They're starting to move it into the DNC or to the DOJ. And then the FBI again says, you know what? You guys are so fantastic. I love your work you're doing, or not doing, as the case may be. We want an official partnership with you. We want, yeah, wedding bells were heard, the FBI and the Anti-Corruption Bureau in Ukraine to work hand in hand. Now, holy cow, now they can share any information back and forth. It's kind of like that wall that, you know, we had for 9/11. That wall came down. And now if the Ukrainians had something, get right to them. Okay, so that brings me now to the Black Ledger. Remember we were talking about the Black Ledger here? Trump opposition research, and she's like, hey, I got a guy named Paul Manafort. Forget Tony Podesta and Tad Devine and all of that. I got this guy, Manafort. So the Black Ledger on Manafort was released. And you're going to love this. Now, only in the end will you understand. Still at the beginning of this story, but it has a great ending. So the Black Ledger was released by Ukraine's Anti-Corruption Bureau, both occurring directly in the heat of the U.S. election. Now, the Black Ledger refers to financial records that were kept by this guy, the former Ukrainian president. He used this for the under-table payments. Now, remember, he's working to get him reelected, and so are these two. So another person that is involved in this is a Ukrainian parliamentary member named Lashenko, okay? And he is also working, remember the guy who's running the anti-corruption thing? These are the two that put the Black Ledger together, all right? These two signed a memorandum of understanding with the FBI just months prior. They jointly released pages in the letter that showed illegal payments were given to Paul Manafort. Now, this is kind of crazy because on the same day that these guys are nailed, just within days, if not hours, of this coming out, and Paul Manafort going to jail, dude, Tony Podesta, who was doing the same thing with the same people in the Black Ledger, he just decides to close his shop. This is one of the the biggest firms for lobbying in the United States of America. Tony Podesta is John Podesta's brother. All those Clinton, the Clinton connections and everything. Did I lose my? There it is. All of those things, nobody paid attention. He just.
Now, I don't feel bad for Paul Manafort, but it's unfair that Tony Podesta was left out of that. If you're going to nail one, nail the other one too.
Oh, absolutely.
See how the deep state protects its own, though? He's in on it. He's in on the whole deal. Manafort didn't have a clue. All the Obama administration was involved in this.
You know, at the beginning of the administration, or I'm sorry, of the campaign, I was made aware from someone who, God, I wish I could remember who it was, but Manafort was actually thrust into the campaign. Hey, Donald Trump, here's a good guy. You could use him in your campaign. He'd be a great guy. He's done campaigns before, and besides that, we can use him, as a dirty wheel into the, workings of your campaign.
And
Just
I'm
saying.
sure that was Rice. What was his name? He was on the campaign for a while until Trump fired him. He was in the White House. Rinse Penis there.
Yeah, Rich Previous.
Yeah. I'm sure he was in on it too.
Now, I don't know if anybody's really forgotten that, the reason nobody's reporting any of this is because they had spouses and relatives in the White House and the media. So, of course, they're not going to report any of it.
Yeah, we've seen the charts that had so-and-so who is this particular part of the administration, who is the so-and-so for MSNBC or the CNN so-and-so who's married to somebody in the White House. Yeah, I remember all that.
All right, we're going to get back to rolling.
Our ambassador, remember, behind cover, she was telling everybody, you better not mess with them. You better not investigate anything to do with Burisma, Joe Biden, or Hunter Biden, all that. So they do work very much behind closed doors, and we're going to see it develop even more as he goes through his presentation on the platform.
Speaking of that, I just sent a picture to the White House of a bunch of the Burisma guys who were in the house of the ambassador who was let go. They were bragging, here we are in the ambassador's house. Here's a picture of us in Burisma. Just saying.
Retire and close his shop. Wow. And nobody questions that. Nobody thinks it's weird. The guy working on the same thing that he gets busted for by these guys, he closes shop the same time. Wow, I'd have a question or two if I were in the media, but I'm not really. Now, some have questioned whether the ledger is even authentic. I'm not going to do that. Whether it was forged or not doesn't change the fact that Manafort had been a target of the DNC, and they had been after him with chalupa for months. The Ukrainian embassy was working with the DNC to get this information. And now, in an absolute surprise, during the U.S. election, the Ukrainian government decides with the anti-corruption guy who's in bed with all of these people that they're going to release that bombshell out of nowhere. Whether the ledger is legit or not doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to Paul Manafort, but it doesn't really matter in this story. The Ukrainian government did this for political reasons to sink Donald Trump's campaign. There is absolutely no question about it. Y'all caught up? Is that my head swimming? Because remember, the press will say nothing to see here. All of this is fact. All of this is backed up with solid reporting, with actual documents. No conspiracy here. These are the documents. But something else happens, okay? At the same time the Black Ledger comes out, Barack Obama decides to announce that there's a new ambassador in town, a new sheriff. She's going to clean up this town, I'll tell you that right now. She decides to do a couple of things, okay? Lusenko, remember, he's the guy who replaced the corrupt guy. He's actually now sworn in. He's been a temporary guy, but he's now sworn in as the guy we all trust. Except there's a problem, okay? Because he still wants to investigate the missing money. So the new ambassador comes in and she calls Lusenko in for a meeting. And she says, look, there's some people that you just can't prosecute, okay? You can't prosecute people. You can't, well, we don't know the names of the people. They were unnamed Ukrainians. But also, you can't prosecute or look into anything here whose the vice president's son works for, and John Kerry's son is involved. And you also can't prosecute these people. Why? $1.8 billion, gone. Millions of dollars, gone. Wait, what? This is the U.S. ambassador, the brand new one? She comes in, the first thing she does is call him in and says, you have a hard line. None of this. And there's some people, too, we don't know who they are, some people, too, that you also can't prosecute, and they're Ukrainian citizens. Wow. Oh. She also does one more thing.
Just for a second.
Late 2016, she said...
She has been reported she's going to testify now in front of this circus Congress of ours that we have right now. And she's supposedly got information. Wonder what kind, huh?
Are you talking about Yanovich?
The new ambassador.
The ambassador that he fired, she did. She testified this week.
Oh, did she?
And it was all about how she was never disloyal, even though there's record that even some of the Ukrainian government people wrote POTUS telling them that she was either bad-mouthing POTUS, and she was not supportive of him, not supportive of a lot of things, and now we see why. So even though she serves at the president's pleasure, and she acknowledged that, she would not acquiesce to the facts that there were numerous reasons why he had every reason to fire her, even though he didn't, he had not utilized half of them, but could have very well. Really? So she's a fine example of ugly being all the way to the bone. I am just saying that poor woman is not only homely on the outside, but she is corrupt and evil and ugly to the bone.
Yeah, I didn't hear any reports that she was testifying yet.
She did. She testified this week, and there was another guy that gave testimony this week, and there's another one that has agreed to, even though the White House has told him he didn't have to. I can't remember his name. He's not one that, I think he's another deep stater, maybe.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it just ticks me off because the president has every right to fire any one of his employees he wants to.
Yep.
No reason given.
That's right. They serve at his pleasure. But he had 15 million different legitimate reasons to get rid of that winchback. And I'm saying, wasn't soon enough, Sister Sue. Sorry.
I never question any employee that he fires. There's always a reason. I trust him to make the right decision.
The only thing...
Yeah, and this Keenan or whoever. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to tease and say, I do question him on one decision only. And that's that he has not asked Doc Martin to come back there and squeeze him till his eyeballs pop out when he gets elected on her birthday. Just saying. Get my weekly plug-in. You people are just not any fun. So I don't know what but I expect everybody to be laughing whenever I give a joke. Y'all just gotten too serious now tonight.
Serious? What are you talking about?
I cracked a joke. Y'all didn't even laugh. I'm sorry.
I did too. Yes, I
felt you were one of the only ones.
Right.
Yeah, back in darling.
And I even in the chat room,
nicer than others. All right, roll tape. I can tell we're getting frowned at.
No reasons for you, because he still has prosecutors looking into all of these things. And he just wants to get to the DOJ and our Attorney General. So they pack up all of their briefcases with all kinds of papers, and they come up with a few things that they just want to talk to the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney General.
Where's the
because
video?
remember,
There it is.
they're partners. These guys are partners with the FBI. Wedding bells. So we should be able to communicate, right? She says, no visas for you. No soup for you. And it was really nothing important. There were about 5 or 6 things that they wanted to cover. They wanted to expose that the DNC and Ukrainian officials were gathering dirt on Trump. They wanted to talk about the misappropriation of $7 billion of your money. They had Ukrainian officials admitting to influencing the U.S. election. They had records showing Burisma sending $3 million to Hunter Biden. They had Biden pressuring Ukraine to fire Shokin, because we remember, well, that damn Donald Trump, he pressured another government. They didn't care about this one apparently either. And U.S. officials interfered in the prosecution of cases in the Ukraine. This guy wanted his people to bring these things to our DOJ and our Justice Department, and Barack Obama said no. Well, he didn't. She did, by not giving any visas. No soup for you. Now, the next big day. First big day, opportunity. Did they have the opportunity to corrupt things? Did they have the opportunity to investigate and to embezzle money and to wash their hands of that money? Did they have that opportunity? Yes, because of this date. They got involved. This date was pretty important, but this date in November changed everything. This is the second most important day in this timeline, the day Trump wins elections, because nobody thought that was going to happen. These people had all played their hand that Hillary Clinton was going to win. Now Trump
never
wins.
thought she would lose.
What do we do? Well, I'll show you what they did. In July of 2017, 2 years ago, the media had the opportunity to begin looking into democratic corruption in Ukraine when the story was dropped directly at their feet. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she said during an off-camera briefing on July 12th, 2017, these words. Listen.
I think if there's been any evidence of collusion in 2016 that's come out at all or been discussed, that's actually happened, it would be between the DNC and the Ukrainian government. I don't often quote the New York Times, but even one of their reporters tweeted earlier today that why this example provides evidence of collusion, quote, cooperation was between DNC officials and officials from the Ukrainian government, not just some associate. Ukrainian actions to coordinate with the DNC was actually successful, unlike anything shown by Don Jr.'s emails. Information passed to the DNC from the Ukrainian government directly targeted members of the Trump campaign in an attempt to undermine it. And that was just Ukraine.
Okay. So the incoming White House press secretary alleges that the DNC was colluding with the government of Ukraine. Not only that, but Together, they specifically targeted people within the Trump campaign during an election. While this sounds like a scandal that everyone should be worried about or looking at, no, this is about Joe Biden and Trump's phone call. Now, if the media had any shred of credibility at all, you would expect this comment to kick off at least one follow-up question. I mean, I'd be knocking people over to get to the microphone and say, excuse me, what's this all about? I mean, it would be the first question, right? Following a bombshell comment like that, I got to prove it or disprove it. Tax increases on upper income investment earners. How much do the CEOs of healthcare industry, how much do they make? Because that was the follow-up question. Yeah, they didn't even recognize it. Well, the first person did. But the second person, it was about Flynn and Kushner and Sessions and Don Jr.'s Russia contacts. So they seem to miss that. I don't know. Selective hearing, perhaps. I have that with my wife sometimes. I have to admit it. Maybe they thought Sarah Huckabee Sanders was their wife. Who knows? The media.
I think it goes to Phil's larger point.
Insane story. Gift wrapped in a nice little Tiffany's box.
I did need to point out that was the first time a man admitted that he had selective hearing when it comes to his wife. We just had to mark that moment in time. Might want to put it up somewhere. Sorry, go ahead.
Boom, out. All they could think about was ask about tax increases and then back to Russia. And the media wonders why Trump is losing his mind every time they ask him a question. Okay. So, who was doing all of this? Wow. There are two people that went to jail. Yeah, I'm sorry. There were two people that were convicted. They haven't gone to jail yet because their case was overturned by a technicality, and the prosecutors are retrying it as we speak. Now, who were the people that the Ukrainians decided to take to court for interference in a U.S. election? Wow, that seems like a name we should all know, right? You'll never guess. It was this guy. You remember the Black Ledger on Manafort? It's this guy. Oh my gosh, this guy's the head of this thing. He's going to jail? How ironic. The Anti-Corruption Bureau, the head of that, is corrupt. Who would have seen that one coming? Oh, and who's the other guy? Yeah, this guy. They go to court and they are convicted, found guilty of interfering in our elections. Media doesn't cover that here. Who would be interested in something like that? So the verdict is guilty, but the evidence was interesting. First of all, in April, former Prosecutor General Lysenko, the good guy, remember, that came in after the bad guy was taken out? He decides to give an interview with Ukrainian media. And in that interview, he makes a stunning comment. Quote, I don't know how, but the Americans got an audio recording of Mr., how do you say his name? Sitnik, of his conversation. Now, that's the guy who ran the Anti-Corruption Bureau. He was resting with his family and friends now and discussing how he'd like to help Hillary. Oh. So the guy who was in charge of the anti-corruption, they caught him on tape talking about how he'd like to. Well, let me play it for you. Now, this is the first time, strange because it's been out in the newspapers in Ukraine, this is the first time that we know of that this has been translated by anyone in the media in English. I just want you to listen. Now, the speaker you're going to hear is Director Sitnik, and this is what he said. Listen.
Я думаю, что да. Я ж ему тоже помогу. Не ему, а Хиллари помогла.
Тоді ви там трошки шатнули, да.
Ні, це так пишуть там.
Ну, мені кажется, Хиллари погано було, не дуже.
Wow, Clinton Foundation.
Ну, я наскільки пам'ятаю, ви говорили, що для нас, мабуть, було ближче Хиллари.
Ні, Трамп же ж ні. Він чисто в нього внутрішні питання домінують над зовнішніми. А Хіларі це якби це із тих політиків, що вони гегемонія Америки в світі. Для нас це так лучше. А для американців лучше так, це те, що Трамп робить.
Навіть ці американські страховки, це баба,
Ми ж оприлюднили питання про Манафорта, якого посадили. Манафорт ж був керівник цього вищого штабу Трампа. Ну, його ж тоді це сторонили час, в тому числі за те, що проходили по чорну бухгалтерію, посадили там, що 80 років позбавили. І для Трампа барабан, тому що у них система працює чітко. І коли це були вибори, за неділю до виборів, FBI поновили розслідування відносно Хіларі. У неї рейтинг упав на 7%, і Трамп на тяжко переміг. Я таки не можу зрозуміти, що Трамп воює з FBI, і коли його доганяють. Якби не FBI, то він би не був президентом. У них Хіларі погасили рейтинг на 7%.
Wow, that seems pretty kind of wow. Now, the only reason why anyone knows about this recording is because of a Ukrainian member of parliament in October of 2017, Borislav Rosenblatt. He filed a claim and said these guys are guilty of interfering with U.S. elections. And
okay, guys, just real quick for the people in the viewing right now and in the chat, we're gonna run 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes over Ladies of Liberty. So if you want to go to Ladies of Liberty when that starts, you're more than welcome to. We're gonna try to finish this out tonight. So, or you can stay, but we don't want to. Didn't mean to scope over James and his crew, but we do want to finish this, and we lost a good 15, 20, 25 minutes to Periscope shenanigans, so I'm going to keep rolling it here.
And he had the audio. Ukrainian court agreed. Lyshenko appealed the decision. Rosenblatt leaked the audio recording. But despite all of this being big news, front page news in Ukraine, nobody in the media here cared. They don't care. Okay, so then we find this big gap. Almost all of 2018, nothing happens because two things are happening. We're approaching a big date, and it's not this one. Nothing really happens because in the U.S., the Mueller investigation is underway, and in Ukraine, political upheaval is crazy. Okay? So people, I think, are kind of in their shell. Nobody's moving because nobody knows what's coming. Remember, they set this whole machine up for Hillary. They set it up for the DNC. Now Trump wins. This is coming out, and their guy is becoming unstable. People don't like him there. Holy cow. So nothing really happens during 2018, and then April of 2018 or 29? Yeah, 2018. In April of 2018, the Mueller report comes out, and it's a zero. A zero. That sucks. But you know what happened 11 days later? An atomic bomb. This is what, that is 2019. It's April 2019, not 18. This is when there's new leadership in Ukraine. Now, nobody saw this guy coming, just like nobody saw Donald Trump coming, okay? Nobody thought this was going to happen, and nobody thought this was going to happen. You know who this guy is? This is the guy who is he's kind of like the Jon Stewart of Ukraine. He didn't do any interviews. He didn't say he was going to do anything. He didn't explain any policies. He refused. He doesn't like any of this crap. And he's been on television saying, this is insane. The whole country is corrupt. Well, whether it was a joke or whether he planned on winning, he wins. And nobody sees this. It was like, wait, the comedian is now our president? Yep, Because all over the world, no matter where you are, people are sick of the lies and the corruption. So they hire him. Now, what's really weird is at the same time, remember this lady? Just a few days later, Trump fires her. And then, just a few days later as well, the DOJ investigates the investigation. Because the DOJ is like, wait a minute, she was telling people not to come in with this. We know that this guilty verdict just happened, where they're admitting to do it. We lost all of this money. I don't know about you, but I think I would investigate the
Now, I stopped that because right where Mueller ends his investigation, if he had gone back and looked at Ukraine and mentioned it, that timeline in May where DOJ investigates the investigation might not have happened. But obviously, Mueller ignored all of this. And he had to have known. Everybody in the Mueller investigation had to have known about Ukraine.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, $40 million and 17 people can't.
Otherwise, they would have ignored it all.
They ignored it on purpose.
Absolutely. So did the press.
Hoping.
That's just something you can't ignore.
Well, they were hoping that the DOJ investigation investigating the investigators wouldn't happen. All right, I see James just went live. So, audience members, if you want to leave and go watch Ladies of Liberty, we're going to try to finish this and get our 15, 20 minutes back.
Investigators? I would investigate, where did this start? Because it seems to be starting with a chalupa, right? Then, in July, this guy decides his ambassador is corrupt as well. And so they both replaced their ambassador. So now the pipeline is clear. Now no one is standing in the way to find out what this man is telling us about. But concentrate on this date. Forget about all this. This is a conspiracy. Concentrate here. Trump made a phone call. Trump made a phone call. You see how this doesn't work? You see how none of this is being talked about? They're talking to you about Joe Biden and his son. Skip, 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 skip. And Trump made a phone call. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. Let's just think about this for a second. Let's just take a minute to think about it. Then Stu and I think Jason, are you going to join them? No, I'm not sure. And Howerton are going to join and try to take some of your questions and things. I got more. But let me catch my breath. You think about this. Let's spend about 2-3 minutes just looking at the comments from social media. At this point, I want you to know, I have an investigator that I would really like to hire. You know who it is. Well, you don't know who I'm thinking, but you'd know who this person is, that I think can actually dig. This is stuff that we just dug up. This is stuff that's been in the press, been in the New York Times, been somewhere, but nobody has put it all together. I'd like to hire an investigator because nobody else seems to be interested in this timeline. How this research and this reporting was done comes from our subscribers. And I urge you, if you have, what is it, $5 a month, $9 a month? It's the price of a coffee or two at Starbucks.
Okay, he's just going to talk about
if you would subscribe to the Blaze TV,
his
we can do more of
subscription. So I'm going to cut it off there. So I'm sorry, Doc. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying. Yes, that was the end of the video, pretty much.
Yeah, he was going into subscribing to his show, which you can do. That's fine, because he does, when he does that chalkboard stuff, he does a really good job at bringing out information. And we'll see what happens. None of this is in the media, so unless you watched this program on the Blaze or you watched this program tonight, nobody knows, right?
Yeah, that's a travesty. Kind of goes to the overall point that the media is in on it, the deep state is in on it, the Dems are in on it. Somehow they knew to categorize this particular information and keep it from being distributed.
And this is only part one. There's a lot more to come out.
Yeah, what really disturbs me is that, I mean, we know all this stuff. We have documentation, proof, facts, yet nothing gets done. That's just what's upsetting is, when the public knows the truth and we see that our government isn't acting on that stuff.
Again on that though, consider what happened just with what Biden and Hunter Biden's share of it is so tiny compared to the overall. But even that little bit where Rudy Giuliani is looking into, that has caused such a furor of this is all political, it's revenge, it's what about it, whatever you can think of, it's not even legitimate. Although we knew when it came out it was for real. This is not Trump being vindictive politically. This is Trump trying to clean up the global problem that we've got going on here. And this is just a tiny bit.
I guess that's the point I was.
They have, because we have the facts now.
But I guess that goes back to that point where you were trying to state that the stuff's coming out in drips and drabs, but it's not, and less than 20% of the country knows about this. So, I mean, at some point,
you're making my point.
At some point, Trump's going to have to come in and rip the Band-Aid off and say,
"Oh yeah."
I mean, you got to. Because the media is covering up all of this, and unfortunately, a lot of the country gets their information from the media. They don't get it from Periscope or Twitter or.
This is what I think is going to happen. I really think when it really comes down to it, Barr's going to come out and have a press conference, because he's the guy in charge of the DOJ, and he'll lay it all out.
But that goes to what I'm saying. Eventually, they're just going to have to rip it off like a Band-Aid and say, the bleeding eventually will stop, but they're going to have to. I mean, they don't have a choice.
Well, again,
how deep is it going to go, though, Phil? I mean, if you rip off the Band-Aid about what people know about right now, which is actually just scratching the surface, because I think once you find out that, you've got 5 people involved, Nancy's kids, Romney, Biden's, and Kerry's kids, it's not just those people. That's just the ones that are going to come out first. If you rip it off on all of them all together and all the other governments who are involved in this stuff, you're going to find out that there's going to be a real problem. I think that this has all been going along according to a plan. We can't just... I don't mean we. I'm not above any of the others, but
so less than 20%, maybe even less than that, know about this stuff.
Correct.
How long is it going to take? How long are you talking about drip and drabbing it out to people so that 60% or 70% know? You're talking years.
I don't think that it's only 20% anymore. I think that's where the issue is. It has been coming out in drips and drabs. They've been preparing us. If all of this had come out to begin with, none of us would have known this. It has been educating us, and we've been going out into the community and spreading the word. But at some point, there will come a point where the mean saturation has been reached, that an acceptable number of people in society know enough that to prevent.
For example, 62%.
There's always going to be some meltdown, and there's going to be some of them that are going to be paid to melt down. It isn't just the the normies. It's going to be added to by people like Soros and them pouring gas on it when it does happen. But that's why they've been trying to get the saturation to a point that's manageable so that it is minimized. There's some things that you cannot prevent 100% something happening, but we can minimize it and manage it. And that's where our success has been coming in. And that's why I think that, our armed forces have been put on notice that they may be required to help with civic unrest in the country.
And part of our job too, Phil and Doc, is that we're here to answer the questions for the normies who are going, what is going on? We didn't even know.
Yeah.
This is probably why what the president does at his rallies, he gives us a little bit of information at a time that we can digest, at least the normies.
That and the tweeting.
I disagree, but because I don't subscribe to the Q, we have to drip and drab it out thing, because I'll tell you what, people that follow it closely are getting.
It isn't that we're going to. It's already been happening since Trump came down the escalators.
Okay.
Your
all right.
point, your body of knowledge has increased exponentially. You didn't know about Ukraine 3 years ago. None of us did. But see, we are exponentially coming forward. But when we hit a main point of saturation, then it'll be a lot safer to bring forward.
I'm just saying I disagree with your belief that the country's waking up and all that. Go out on the street right now in my neighborhood. 90% of the people in my town have no clue what I'm talking about. I mean, and I live in a conservative area that likes Trump. So, I mean, really.
I had 3 people this week come up and ask me, because they know I'm an avid Trump supporter. I've had 3 of them come up and ask me if certain things were true, or because they knew I would have details about different things, ask me about things. So I'm having a different experience down where I'm at.
I don't even see where we're disagreeing, Phil. I think you're kind of helping to make the point.
But I guess what I'm trying, how are we going to get from point A to point B where enough people know? Because in my opinion, not even close to enough people know. We're not even close to 60%.
And arrests and more.
Public arrest.
I think that's what we've been waiting for 2 years now.
By the way, I don't know if anybody noticed it. I was watching the Fox News feed for the Trump rally last night. And at one point where Trump said something, I don't remember, but everybody was starting to go wild. And he walked away from the podium, and the shot showed a sign up, a Q sign. And it was up there for a good 5-10 seconds. And Trump pointed at him. And winked.
He did the boom, 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 and the air cue and all that. But that gets what I think Phil is wanting to know is, at what point is it going to be safe to bring all this out without causing mayhem anyway? Why isn't he going and doing it? But I think there's a lot of things over the next few weeks that are going to really come into play that's going to boost public awareness mightily.
I guess
I think we tend to look at it as a local problem to the United States, and it's not. It's going to be a worldwide awakening.
It is.
Denise, I have the same problem. It's not only that one person that I told you about earlier, but the person down the street is the same way. She was like in a panic, especially during the Mueller report. I said, don't worry about it. So you are exactly right. You just got to talk to people and kind of reassure them and let them know.
I guess the timeline you have to start doing something. Somebody's got to get arrested soon, because we're in almost to November of 2019. Election season, I mean, it ramps up in 3 or 4 months. You can't be arresting people during the election. People are going to go, oh, Trump's just doing this to win re-election. It's going to be just insane. And you're going to have people that you think you're getting woke they're going to say, well, wait a minute, why is he doing this now? You know, you got to do something now.
If you look at the news over the period, though, Phil, you don't, a 4-year cycle is not enough to bring it about. I mean, in a very rapid way. I mean, it took a long time for Trump to just get rid of the traitors inside the White House.
Well, he hadn't even done that yet.
So
no.
So you're saying that Trump gets reelected, and we're still going to be going on through dripping and dragging this out through another 4 years?
Oh no, I think it's going to be a lot of tremendously.
I mean, if you're going to arrest Hunter Biden, it can't be in January of 2020.
Well, it ain't going to be, and I don't think that's what he was saying. I don't mean to speak for you, Scudder, but I think what he's saying is the timing. What we're all in agreement on is the timing has got to be perfect. We only have one shot to take the deep state down, and I think that POTUS, with his stable, brilliant, genius mind, and all of the military people that he has at his disposal, are very capable of knowing exactly when to bring that about to bring maximum damage to them as they go into the cycle, but so that it will bring maximum impact. Because if people get mad or pissed off too early, they're going to burn out too fast.
Yep.
So this has got to be timed exactly right. And if I trust anybody to do it, it's POTUS. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So,
he's proven to be the master of timing.
Encouraged to not.
Yeah, timing is everything. I've always said, like back when Q first went offline on this most recent long term, I've always said he's not coming back until after the FISA is released. And we thought that was going to be a couple of weeks back then for the FISA. And of course, the FISA didn't get released. And then the people are saying, oh, y'all are wrong. But no, the FISA's not released. I think that's the time part of it. And once that,
my vision of
it was also, I mean, because there was a lot going on. Q was starting to get slammed, the conspiracy theories, that stuff coming out. So him backing away, it's kind of like he's letting us grow up on our own a little bit. And then he's going to come back and explain what's going on again. But look what's happened in this time period. We have gotten way more angry than we were back when Q was telling us what was going on. I mean, he's wanting us to get fired up, and this is the way he's doing it. He's letting us do it on our own.
Look at the rallies. He's going up exponentially with the rhetoric, or if you might, it's not just rhetoric. He's coming down on these guys. And
he's always said we have the power, and he's showing us that now.
Exactly. And I think what you're going to find is that as he comes down harder and harder, you're going to find that there's more and more coming out of the public. I think, for example, Doc, with what you're saying, pick a number like 62%. You have 62%, sir, we are not ready yet. We're at 60% of the people in the country who are backing you, and the fact that everybody is corrupt. And it gets to a certain number. I think there's something a lot more complicated, but in that genre of, they know when it's going to be time to drop the hammer. I think they know when it's going to be time, and they're about ready to do it.
I mean, regardless of how many people you've got, 60%, whatever, there are 30% of crazies in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, and there's we're never.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to go out there and they're going to riot and they're going to burn things down, and it's just the fact. No matter what you tell them, they are crazy.
Sure.
I mean, look at Twitter polls. You got
Plus, one other thing about
should Trump be impeached? You got
I also think
70% say no, 30% say yes, and then your comments below are his ass should be in prison, high crimes, misdemeanor. You can't tell them anything.
Yeah, putting them at the top too.
And that's a lot of people, 30%.
You've got people and you've got high tech that are all pushing for deep state. Trump's got us. So that just shows you we got to keep our asses engaged. We got to we got to get on social media every chance. We can't rest on our laurels. Go ahead.
Still something that never ever comes to those pollsters' minds is that Trump supporters are largely quiet people. A lot of them don't ever get polled. people who vote for Trump, a lot of them are never going to answer a poll about who they're going to vote for. I think there are a lot more supporters of Trump than
I agree.
anybody can poll.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's almost a bad thing. They have made it so it's a bad thing to support Trump. So not many people are going to admit it.
They made it a bad thing to be patriotic for your country. But you know what?
Yep.
I can kiss my grits.
Yep. Yeah, they can go lower than mine.
By the way, another reason why I think the FISA is about to be released is 2 days ago we were informed that the old 8chan was gone with the anons and everything. The new platform is up and running. They're actually put out the word for the other catalog and board owners that were on 8chan to contact them if they wanted to join this group. So they've got it online now. They're just building up.
Maria Bartiromo said the 18th, next Friday, is going to be when the FISA IG is
a few credible people have said that. A few credible reporters, I think, have already said that FISA was coming out on Friday. By Friday. They didn't say Friday exactly, but they said within 2 weeks. And
that's what I'm saying, Lee. This timing, I mean, I don't think that 8chan is going to mess with us because they know we're all on edge and just anticipating, and we don't want another letdown. And so I'm pretty sure the FISA is going to be here quick.
I'm thinking this next week because there's been rumor about the 18th. So.
Well, even those who depend on Q have been told by Q at some point, you don't need to depend on Q anymore.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we're there yet, though. I think these can be
You
bad.
have what you need. You have what you need.
And you know what? This time of quietness has been good because a lot of people have taken that time to go back and re-review. But it's also allowed time for history to catch up with the predictions.
Well,
so I think we're at a point, and we're going to be. I think it's going to be batten down the hatches. Sally, bar the door. Better put your seatbelts on. I think we're about to take off.
Well, guys, I don't want to stop the discussion, but we're 25 minutes over on Ladies of Liberty. So
you're right, Phil.
And we finished our.
You know what? This has been great discussion, and I just am so glad that you suggested that we review this and discuss it, Phil. I think this is extremely huge, and I think it's extremely important, and it's hard to grasp because there's so many moving pieces. And this, I think, has really put it focus for me and a lot of people. So thank you, darling.
Yeah,
Phil, I think that was great. That was great, Phil.
It's more than us sitting here and saying we saw on Twitter. The guy has documents. I mean, that's evidence.
Yeah, when I'm skimming headlines nowadays and I see Glenn Beck, I just ignore it. So I would never have seen that. I'm glad he's turning away from the dark side.
He's been coming back from his brink for a while, I think, because I've seen.
I listen to him sometimes. Phil, he's got some great ideas and great guys who talk about global warming and climate change too. I think that would be a fascinating topic.
So someone made a good point that Stranahan was talking about Ukraine for a while and all of the ties, but again, it's just he's one of the scopers that if you don't watch every scope 24 hours a day, you're going to miss something. So I've watched him a few times.
Romania stuff to come out too.
I've watched him a few times, but I've never caught the Ukraine piece on his scope. So it was always something about what was going on in Iran or whatever.
I've always told to steer away from Stranahan. That's how come I've never seen it.
I don't. You know what? Never stay away from anybody. Don't listen to anybody. Watch what you want to watch. That's what I say.
Take us out, Phil.
There could be one little piece of information on some scope that you were told not to watch.
Yeah, the only exception is MAGA Promises Kept in Speakeasy. You can't miss those.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, we're saying to watch
Donald
those. I'm just saying don't let somebody tell you not to watch something.
Well, I always heard that he was kind of a little off the wall,
but he could have a couple pieces of information. He could have a couple pieces of information and explain it and have the evidence, and you could miss it, you know? And like
My
someone
mother
said,
followed
Stranahan
Glenn
talked
Beck for
about this a
years.
year ago. So everybody missed it for a year, right?
Sure.
My mother followed Glenn Beck for years. She's a devout Christian, can't stand Mormons. He's a Mormon. She still followed him. His information is good.
I used to be one of his #1 fans. So
when he does that stuff, he's at his best.
There you go. The research is great.
All right, but everybody, we're
really good.
Right. Everybody, we're now we're half an hour over on Ladies of Liberty.
Because we're getting right back into Piston again.
Yes.
We got to get off the air.
Take us out.
All right. So Scott is first. Scotter on top.
Hey there.
Got
Well,
me.
thanks for listening to us, and I hope you gained something. I hope you learned something, and I hope you are no less and maybe even more supportive of our president, Donald Trump. That's it. Thank you, gang.
All right, Rusty.
Glad to be with you, and I'm glad everybody's with us, and hope to see you around again next week and throughout the week. And don't forget to support our president and do everything we can do to support him and candidates that he recommends.
Scott of West Texas. Thank you, Rusty.
Hey, I'm just glad to be part of the group. You guys are great. We've got a great group of followers here on the chat. Thank you all for watching and giving us your time. And this has been a lot of fun. Can't wait for next week to see what's going to come down.
Doc Martin.
Well, I'm just like the rest of y'all. I'm just thrilled to be along for the ride. And thank you all for coming each week. Thank you for being a support, because you know we're only as strong as our weakest link. That means we got to all take hold, bring everybody along. That's why these kind of discussions are important, so that we can digest it together, because it doesn't matter what viewpoint. I always learn something from y'all. I always learn to look at it from a different viewpoint. I always get a little nugget of info I didn't have, or a reminder of something I'd seen and forgotten. So there's so much value to us getting together as patriots, and not only celebrating the wins, but discussing our viewpoint, because I think collectively we're stronger. We're always stronger together. And I aim to keep sticking with y'all as long as you'll let me. So thank you for coming to see us. We hope you have a wonderful week. We know there's going to be a lot of big winning coming this week. So be sure and give us a shout out, guys. Catch you on the flip side.
That's right. And don't forget,
Amen.
Gotta go through the shows real quick. Mac Files on 24/7. Even scopes over his own scopes. Pirate Radio, which may be scoped at the same time as the Mac Files. Tab Show on Sunday night. Ladies of Liberty's been on for a half an hour now. Tamerlee and Brent Hammercheck. Is it Hammercheck? Hammercheck. I just did a Chris McDonald there. Our buddy Chris. Sorry about your Braves, Chris. I thought they were going all the way. Anyway.
Right on Mimi.
Yeah. I got to make a meme for him about the Braves. Their museum at the local landfill, Chris, has expanded. So you can catch out all their junk at the landfill in upstate New York. So who did I forget? Did I forget anybody? Trust and Verify. That's on Sunday.
Say bye, Phil.
I do want to give one little shout out. Y'all don't forget, one of my favorite shows is on Patriot Soapbox in the morning at 9 a.m. Central Time, which would be 10 a.m. Eastern, and it's called...
It should be 7 a.m. Pacific.
Yes. Little people bringing up the rear. It is Ken Homesteader and Stephanie. They do great deep dives, and it's always an excellent show to watch, guys. So I highly recommend it. It's on Patriot Soapbox, again, at... it's 9 my time, so it'd be 10 Eastern.
So I highly recommend that.
I forgot.
Hey, Doc.
I'm sorry, I forgot the Daily Boogie Bumper. How can you forget Boogie Bumper? And Kimmy, Why Censored on Thursday night, my favorite things. So you can send me your hate mail at winning_TV at Proton Mail. I will accept all of your hate mail. Heisenberg, Dragon.
Hey, Kenny did a great job going out to whatever the conference was, AMR, and he had a lot of good interviews over the weekend. I mean, over the last couple of days. Excuse me.
How was I the only one in the world that did not know about that? I had no idea, didn't even
I stumbled on it like some old drunk.
There were a lot of people there that we know. Like Ann Vanderstill and
they'd heard of Rod
Don
Shaw.
Trump Jr.
Okay, guys.
Roy Lewandowski.
But I can't. It's my mother-in-law. But y'all, we gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta go.
All over,
Love you, Doc. Bye-bye.
And they're not gonna like it.
Don't forget, you can send your hate mail to me at winning_TV at Proton Mail.
Yeah, if you're sending hate mail, be sure and send it to him. No,
yeah.
It's to Bill.
And I will give you a copy of Doc Without Makeup, free of charge. You can become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and you get a free copy of Doc Without Makeup.
That will never happen.
Good night,
Because
folks.
He will die if he does.
Ciao, Chilla.
See you next week.
Bye,